Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. If you're just tuning in for the first time this month, it is a really busy month. Following last October with our space exploration events, we're diving into a brand new theme, looking at archaeology, paleontology, and geology. It's the first time we've ever covered these themes. We've got some really cool speakers joining us to share their stories and the work they're doing around the world. So if you head to exploringbytheseat.com, you can find all the events announced so far, with a few more to come this week as well. This week is exceedingly busy. We have a really cool series. We did this last week with CNN and their Call to Earth Day, but we like to go a little bigger, and we like to make it a whole Call to Earth week. So if you don't know, Call to Earth is a CNN editorial series committed to reporting on the environmental challenges facing our planet, together with the solutions. So they really want to drive awareness and education around key sustainability issues and to inspire positive action. So November 6th is Call to Earth Day. But like I said, we're going a whole week sharing stories of scientists, explorers, conservationists, adventurers who are on the front lines of our changing planet and are bringing these stories back to us. So as such, many of the people we're featuring this week have been featured in Call to Earth videos over the course of the last few years. So let's get into today's live action. Joining us today, we have Vincent Doumeizel joining us. He is the Vice President, Food, Beverage, and Sustainability for the Food Program for Lloyd's Register Foundation, as well as editor of Seaweed Revolution, a Manifesto for a Sustainable Future. With 20 years experience in the food industry, he is now also Senior Advisor on Oceans at the United Nations Global Compact. So seaweed might be the greatest untapped resource we have on our planet. Today, Vince is going to talk a little bit about how it can feed a growing population, create jobs, help mitigate climate change, and bolster our biodiversity. So it just so happens we have Vincent hanging out with us in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil today. So let's reach backstage and see if we can pull him in. Hey, Vincent, how you doing?
Hello, everyone. I'm doing very well. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, it's great to have you with us, Vincent. We've got classrooms in Canada and the US tuning in today. So they're going to send us in some questions shortly. So I think that'll be pretty busy. But in the meantime, We're really excited to learn a little bit more about what you're going to share with us today.
Well, thank you very much. Important topic to share today. Indeed, the ocean is quite often overlooked. As you mentioned, I work for the United Nations. I'm in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil right now for the COP30, which is a big event on climate to mitigate climate change. And basically, I'm in the mission of the United Nations is just to save the world. And in order to save the world, we need superheroes, as you know. And we found these superheroes, some of them at least. And these superheroes, which can save the world, they are seaweed and plankton. So I'm going to get into the detail of why seaweed and plankton can really save the world. And you have no fear, no drama. Everything's going to be all right. There's an ocean of solution in front of us. So let me introduce you to this nice organism. So here are some of my books. I did some comic books, some children book, and so forth on seaweed and plankton. So just a few introduction about the United Nations. So the United Nations is homed in New York City, which my office is in New York, and we support peace and security, human rights, law, and development of population. It's an international organization gathering all the presidents. Founded in 1945 for peace, security, and cooperation amongst all the countries. So we need to cooperate in order to address the big challenge we have in front of us. One of the very big challenge we have, there are four actually. It's called the planetary crisis, and that will be your challenge as well. You, the next generation, kids here. Climate crisis. The climate is changing. It's getting warmer and warmer because of our human activity. A food crisis. We've got a lot of people to feed. We've got already 600 million people to feed, which are starving on the planet, and there are 300,000 people in addition to feed every day on the planet. So it's a lot to take care. We have an environmental crisis, meaning that there's a lot of pollution. There's a lot of problem with loss of biodiversity. And we've got a social crisis. I mean, there are more and more poor people, really poor people. So we need to support them and bring new source of revenues and jobs to these poor people. So we really need some super strong superheroes to address this all, because it's all together. So we need really to change it. And to do that, sorry, it's in French, but the most important is a drawing. It's part of my children's book. That's the story of algae in the story of our planet. And actually, it all started with algae 4 billion years ago in the ocean. So 4 billion years ago, it's a very, very old. The planet formed 4.5 billion years ago, and then the first thing the first living organism on the planet were small, very, very small algae here. Then 2 billion years ago or so, they invented oxygen, and so they released oxygen and create capacity for all the life we know. So a bit later, there was the first complex organism, like big thing, which were the green and the red algae first, and then all of it changed and so forth, and it became the various type of vegetation. 500 million years ago only, the green seaweed moved on land and gave birth to the entire vegetation and entire wildlife, notably the dinosaur, who disappeared 65 million years ago, which is yesterday in this time scale. And then obviously the human beings and the apes and so forth, very, very recently. So, but once again, everything started with algae. So it's the source and the matrix of any life on Earth. That's why we need to start with them to repair and to solve everything on the planet. So first was the plankton. The plankton is a lot of multiple invisible organisms, mostly invisible, that are in each and every drop of water. In a small drop of water, you will find like millions of organisms. So each time you drink some water, or notably seawater, you will get millions, if not billions, of organisms without even knowing it. So it's 90% of the biomass of the mass that what is living in the ocean. So it's much, much more than whales and dolphins and turtles and fish and so forth. I mean, plankton is everything, everywhere. It's very, very strong. Plankton has created the planet. I mean, the pyramids here are made of plankton, of dead plankton. The cliffs of Dover or Etretat, all these cliffs that you see here, they are made of dead plankton. Some plankton have a shell, and when they die, they create the shell creates some kind of rocks, and they concentrate and they create, and they have created everything we have on the planet. So the Mont Blanc and all the mountains we have, even in the US, they are made, and in Canada, they are made mostly on plankton. The oil, petroleum, it's made of plankton. So each year we use 1 million years of sedimented plankton for our oil consumption. So we are getting all the dead plankton from the planet. And even when you are at school, and then you're not using it so much anymore, but shoals, they are just piece of dead plankton. They are so everything is managed by plankton. More importantly, plankton will create the oxygen, it will create the water, the fresh water, will create the carbon cycle, the nitrogen, and everything that's living on the planet. Plankton is actually visible from space. You can see that they can be really big. Everything that is white, it's a concentration of plankton. And here you can see the various color of the ocean, which and the plankton gives the color of the ocean. Here you can see also some various concentration of plankton in the ocean, which will give the color of the ocean. So plankton is everywhere, and we don't even know about it. We can do many, many different things with plankton. We can do food, we can do cosmetic, we can clean the water, we can feed, give food to animal, we can do medicines and so forth. It's very, very new. No one knows really well about plankton because we don't know much about it, but plankton is gonna come. And it's going to be a big game changer for the planet because we may address a lot of problems. And then the next big thing is also what we call the seaweed revolution. So seaweed, here you can see a nice baby seaweed here, like they can go really, really big. You all know about seaweed. For those who are in the coastal communities, you have 12,000 different types of seaweed. The big family are red, brown, and green. And remember, The red and the green were the first one living on the planet 1.5 billion years ago. So they have evolved. The green seaweed here, they moved on land, they created the trees, they created the plants, they created everything. All the plants and the tree are green seaweed, which have changed. So typically today, if you look at the green seaweed, it will be a close cousin. It will be very close to a oak tree or to a baobab or to a strawberry plant or whatever. It will be much closer to this tree than it is to a red seaweed. Actually, the difference between a red seaweed and a green seaweed, from a biologic point perspective, it's bigger than the difference between a fungi, a mushroom, and an elephant. So that's quite big. I mean, mushroom, elephant, it's kind of very different stuff. And the same with seaweed. They are very, very, very different, which means that we can do anything with seaweed. And the first thing we can do is to give them as source of food to feed human being. So there are less and less human beings who are starving and dying from world hunger. Every 6 seconds, there's a child who died somewhere in the world from starvation. So every 6 seconds, we have a child dying from starvation. That's very, very bad. We have to create new source of food to feed these people, notably these children. In Asia, seaweed cultivation has already started. Just like we cultivate wheat or corn, we cultivate seaweed in Asia. Look at it here. That's a big seaweed farm, with a boat harvesting them. So in the ocean, we have a lot of seaweed farm. And there you grow seaweed, and you grow a lot of seaweed, and you can feed many, many million people. And it's very, very good for the planet. And it's only in Asia so far. In the US, in Canada, there's a huge potential, but very, very little seaweed farm. I mean, 1 or 2 or 3 maybe, but nothing. China, they are already very, very strong, and Asia in general, they are very strong. So seaweed is great because seaweed, it does not need land. It does not need pesticide. It's quite unlikely to fly or swim away. And guess what? You don't even need to water seaweed. It grows in the salt water, so it does not need fresh water. So it's really cool. So why only one region in the world learned how to use seaweed? Well, guess what? Because within this, that's a world map you can recognize. And within this circle, there are more people living inside the circle here than outside, which means that we have more people living here than in the entire America and Europe and Africa and so forth. So the vast majority of the population is in China and India, which are the two biggest population in the world. And they had to learn how to grow seaweed because there was no other way to feed the world, to feed such a huge amount of population. So they had to learn how to grow seaweed, and they did very well. But now, in our part of the world, even America, in Europe, we have to learn how to cultivate seaweed, how to grow seaweed, because we have no resource. I mean, we've reached the limit of the planet. So we need to cultivate the ocean and address all the big challenges we have. So here is how it looks, a seaweed farm. So you can see it can be pretty big. It's growing very quickly. Seaweed can grow up to 40 centimeters a day. So it can be really, really big. Can imagine if crops were growing 30 centimeters a day, and they can grow up to 40 or 60 meters high. So this one, they are like 12 meters high, but they can grow up to 60 meters high. They are real forests in the ocean. They are bigger than forests. There are more forests in the ocean than there is on land, actually. So that's very important. And they can grow very deep. I mean, we can see me swimming in the seaweed here, and they can do a lot of stuff. They have multiple properties, and you can really use them in very different ways. First, and you all know about it, is food. You can feed people. You all know about sushis and makis here. So maki, they are wrapped into some seaweed, and anyone who went into a Japanese or Korean restaurant knows about them. And all these different type of seaweed, they are used daily in Japan. And Japan, they are the countries where they have the longest life expectancy, because they eat a lot of seaweed, and seaweed is the healthiest food you can get. Everything started from there, remember. I mean, that was the core of everything. That's the initial matrix where everything started. So that's the best food you can get. And in Japan, they have the longest life expectancy. They have 40 times less cancer than we have in US and in Europe, because they are eating good stuff, seaweed, or notably. They have very low level of cardiovascular disease, obesity, and diabetes. So they are in a very good health because they eat seaweed every day. It's packed with a lot of very, very interesting ingredients like magnesium, fibers, protein, and many other very, very cool stuff. There is no fat, no sugar. All seaweed are edible, so you can walk on the beach as long as they are not rotten. You can take seaweed and eat them. That's good. And it's just like everything. It may not taste good the first time, but just like if you take a cocoa bean or a raw potato, you may not like it because it's not good as such. But if you make chocolate or French fries, chips, then it will be delicious. So the same with seaweed, you have to learn how to cook them, what to do with them. That's the most important. And if you start eating seaweed, then you can really save yourself and the planet. So that's very interesting. And we will also feed fish with seaweed. Guess what? I mean, it makes sense to give a lot of seaweed to fish because that's what they naturally eat. So far, because we don't know how to cultivate seaweed, in the US, in the Canada, we will take soy from Brazil, import soy from Brazil. Soy will deforest the Amazon forest, which is dramatic. It will go all the way from Brazil to the north of Canada, just because we don't know how to grow the seaweed next to the fish farm. So let's learn how to grow seaweed or to cultivate seaweed, and we don't need any soy from Brazil, and we can leave the Amazon forest in peace. So and that will be much more local and much better for the fish. But even for land animal is better. I mean, look at these ships. They are the ones that are farmed, that are fed only with seaweed. So they are in Scotland, and they are fed only with seaweed, and they are the best ships in the world. They are the one that we give to the King of England. So that's great food for land animal as well. And this small red seaweed that you can see here, it's a magic one, really magic one, because all these animals, and notably the cows, they are burping and farting, sorry for that, a lot, which create a lot of very, very nasty gas for the atmosphere and for the climate. Actually, the worst gas come from the burp and farts emission from cows. And this magic seaweed here, if you give very little of it to cows, it will stop this gas emission. So long story short, if you give like 40 grams a day of this small seaweed to each and every cow on the planet, it will be equivalent for our climate to stop each and every car and truck on the planet overnight. So that's quite massive. So it's time to learn how to cultivate or to grow this seaweed and give it to each and every cow on the planet so we can repair our climate. Seaweed will also, I mean, it's a bit complex, but it will also replace fertilizers and all the chemical products that we put into our soil and into our land for cultivation. You know that these products are not very good. They are very chemical. You can use seaweed instead, and that's much, much better than this chemical product we put into our field. So that's growing bigger and bigger, and we can use seaweed to put into our field and to grow our stuff. Even better, you can use seaweed to replace plastic. Look at that. This packaging of pasta is made of seaweed. So you can cook it. I mean, the seaweed packaging is compostable, biodegradable, and edible. So you can actually eat seaweed. You can have the same with the coffee in the morning. So you have your coffee here. I mean, you can eat the packaging because it's good. In the London Marathon, they give some bubble of juice wrapped in seaweed. So you eat the whole seaweed. You can see as this guy here. You eat the entire bubble with the water or with the juice inside, and there's no plastic glass. There's no packaging anymore. And it saves a lot of things because plastic is very harmful to our ocean. When you drink a plastic glass, in a plastic glass, the plastic will remain for 700 years in the ocean, and it will destroy everything and kill turtles and kill dolphins and so forth. So that's quite cool to use seaweed packaging instead, and it's coming. It's there already. You can do cottons as well. Here are some shoes made from seaweed. Here are dresses and textile made from seaweed. Here is an artistic seaweed dress. So you can really do a lot of different things, because cotton is not very nice to our environment either. I mean, it's very harmful to the environment. And more importantly, we can use seaweed to protect the ocean, because seaweed will clean the ocean. And you may think that the ocean is big, but it's not. In fact, it's not that big. It's very thin on our planet. Look at that. We made here a bubble of our ocean and compare it with the size of our planet. So that's the bubble of our ocean, that's the bubble of our air, and that's the size of our planet. So you can see the ocean and the atmosphere, they are very small, and we should take care of them, because that's the only condition for any living organism on the planet, is to have water and air. So if you don't have them, no life on the planet anymore. So if we don't pay attention to these two bubbles, then we are in big trouble. And the water one is the most important one of them all. So once again, protect the ocean. Best thing, if you want to protect something, is to plant seaweed. Seaweed will grow very fast. It will grow very high. These ones are 60 meters high. They are real forests, and they are hosting a very, very wide range of life and habitat and so forth. Sorry for the noise behind. I hope to not bothering with that. It can really repair the ocean and get more fish, get more whales, get more food, get more oysters, get more dolphin. Everything, they will find a home in this seaweed. So that's very good for them. Seaweed, and that's why we are at COP, will also sequester the carbon in the deep ocean. It's a bit complex, but basically they will take the carbon that is warming up our atmosphere and send it in the deep ocean. So they are sequestering carbon. They are put like carbon in jail in the deep ocean, and they are cooling down the atmosphere. So it's very good for our planet, because it will cool down the planet, seaweed. And last but certainly not least, seaweed will bring source of revenues and jobs to coastal community in the poorest place in the world. Here we are in Madagascar, one of the poorest country in the planet, in Africa, an island in Africa, and they started growing seaweed there. And they really, it lifted a lot of people out of poverty. It really enabled a lot of people to step out of poverty and to really become richer and get food, and they can send their kids to school, and they can learn how to write they can make their kids literate and so forth. So they can really go to university and so forth. So it really saved a lot of people, notably women. Women are mostly benefiting from seaweed production, and as such, it furthers the woman empowerment, the gender equity, and make women equal to men in this emerging country, which is so important for the next generation. So as you can see, seaweed is a solution to a lot of our problems. Feed people, feed animal, replace all the chemical products, replace plastic, replace cotton, new source of medicines to heal people, make people healthier, give source of revenues and job, repair life, repair biodiversity, cool down the planet. So I'm sure you will ask the question, so why it is not there already? Well, there's a lot of problems. We don't know how to farm them. We don't know how to use them. And because also, mostly you are not eating seaweed. So all of you, I want you to get back to your parents tonight and say, I want to try to eat seaweed. You get in any shops, you find that. In any Korean shop, in any organic shop, you should find seaweed. It's not massive. You may not find them by Walmart, I don't know. But in any specialized organic or Korean or whatever shop, you may find them. And trying to eat seaweed, you will change the world, because you will support the superheroes. You will support seaweed. And sometimes, one good idea does not make a difference by itself. It needs a lot of good ideas. I will show you one example, which is a bit stupid. Back to 100 years ago, we invented the tin can, which is very good to preserve and transport food. So everybody thought like, wow, tin can, that's so cool. You can conserve the food. Of course, there was no fridge at this time, so you cannot conserve food in fridge. So it was the only way to conserve and transport food. But actually, tin can, it didn't work. No one was using it. Over 50 years, over the next 50 years, no one really cared about tin can. Why is that? Because it takes 50 years to the next invention. Because to make tin can working, to make it good, we need another invention. Don't laugh. 50 years it took to create the can opener. So until the can opener was not there, of course, it was very hard to open a tin can. We need a hammer and destroy almost all the food there. That was not working very well. So that's not one good idea that changed the world of food in this case. That's two good ideas, the tin can and the can opener. But we do the same with seaweed. So far, we have only the tin can and we are looking to get the can opener. But we are waiting for another good idea. And one of you here may have this good idea. Who knows? I mean, we need a lot of people to think. We need a lot of new scientists. Because actually, the world is getting better. Sorry, it's in French here. But the world is getting, whatever you're told, the world is getting better and better. Here is a percentage of people living in extreme poverty, dying from hunger. It is decreasing very sharply. Here is a number of people unable, which cannot read or write, illiteracy rate. 90% of people who cannot read or write 100 years ago, and then it dropped to less than 20%. The long life expectancy is growing everywhere on the planet. Equality between men and women is growing everywhere on the planet. Everything is doing better. So the reality, despite what we say, is that the world is getting better. We have still a lot of issues to fix, but we have solution. And seaweed is a great, great source of hopes. It's a solution. I mean, I have 3 kids, which are about your age, and I'm fed up to feed them with fears and drama. There's a lot of solutions. There's a lot of cool stuff happening. There's a lot of untapped solution, notably in the ocean. And I want you to be this next generation. I want you to be remembered being the first generation on the planet ever who will manage to feed the entire world population. It has never happened before. I want you to be remembered as such by cultivating the ocean. Because cultivating the ocean, you will produce a huge amount of food that will be good for the planet and good for the people. So you will be remembered as such, the first generation on Earth that will manage to feed the entire world. And doing that, cultivating seaweed, you will also repair the climate, restore biodiversity, and alleviate poverties and world hunger. You will be the first one to do that. So it's a strong call to each one of you. We need you. We need biologists. We need marine scientists. We need seaweed specialists. We need you all. So welcome in this seaweed revolution, and look forward to hear for your question.
All right. Thank you, Vincent. That was a great presentation. I love how you started by showing how important plankton is on our planet, how abundant it is, and then just how powerful seaweed can be as a solution to so many problems that we're facing in the world right now. So it is an exciting time. Like you said, there are solutions there. We need some big ideas, but I think this generation are up to the task. And the more we can share these stories with them, the hope, the better.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to see if any classrooms out there would like to play a little Kahoot quiz. So while you were presenting, Vincent, I made a little quiz in the background to test their new knowledge of plankton and seaweed. To the classrooms who are tuning in via YouTube, now is the time to start sending some of your questions in via the chat, and we're going to get to those very shortly. But I'm going to share my screen really quickly and see if there's some classes out there who want to play a little Kahoot with us. So if you want to play today, there's a few ways you can join. The first, if you have something at your seat, maybe a tablet or a Chromebook, you can visit kahoot.it and then put in this PIN number, 822901. That will bring you right into the Kahoot quiz. If you can't participate with technology, it's at the front of your classroom right now. So you can shout out the answers to your teacher and then see how you do. If you are joining from home, there is a QR code that you can scan. If you scan that code, it will bring you in and you can play that way. So use YouTube now to start sending in some questions. If you want to join the Kahoot quiz, you can join with something at your seat, or you can just play along with it on the screen and see how you do. And then we'll go from there. So Vincent, the first question I'm going to ask you while we wait for a few groups to come in is about, what hooked you? What ignited your passion for seaweed in the first place?
Well, I started my career working in Africa, and there I witnessed world hunger, and that's not good to see at all. It's quite terrible to see that, and I wanted to devote my career to mitigate world hunger and to support these children starving. Not only being there and supporting them with emergency food, but really like trying to change the entire food systems, because the food systems we have have been designed in 80 years ago, and they have to be changed. And it took me 20 years working in the food industry, working with big food manufacturers, to realize that the solution was not on land, because we have tried everything we can on land, but the cities are growing bigger and bigger, so there's less and less arable land. The yields of the crops are declining, and in the meantime, we have a growing population to feed. So the only way to get more food is to go in the ocean. I mean, it may be hard as a figure, but it's striking for everyone, is that our planet, 70% of our planet is covered by ocean, which is the majority of the ocean, of the planet is ocean, but the ocean contribute to less than 2%, so a very little part of our food. So that if we want to really grow the food in a sustainable way, ocean is the only place to do that in the future. That's why I started to get interested into seaweed and plankton, because that's the greatest untapped source of food we have at the moment.
All right. Well, let's get this Kahoot quiz completed, and then let's get the Q&A going. So we've got some classrooms in here with us, and then I've got a few more messages in the chat that say they're playing on the screen in their classroom. So let's get going, and let's see how we do with some of our new knowledge. So there's true and false. There's multiple choice. The faster you put in the correct answer, the more points you're going to get. And then we'll wrap up the rest of our time with some Q&A action. So multiple choice. What percentage of biomass does plankton make up in the ocean? Is it 10%, 25%, 50%, or as high as 90%? You've still got about 20 seconds to lock in your answer. Is it 10%, 25%, 50%, or as high as 90%? All right, there we go. First round in. Good job, crew. It is 90%. The mythical otter is holding down that top spot. We've got true or false coming your way. The pyramids are made of plankton. What do you think? Is that true? Is that false? The pyramids are made of plankton. We've got a few more seconds to lock something in. Good stuff. Good job, crew. That is absolutely true. Pretty cool. When you look at them, you wouldn't expect it, but very cool. So mythical otter is holding down that top spot still. We're going to question 3. Which cycle is plankton important for? So is it the oxygen, the carbon, the water, or all of the above? So you might remember a slide a little bit earlier where Vincent talked about cycles that plankton is a part of. Oxygen, carbon, water, or all of the above. Good job, crew. I know it's sometimes tricky. You pick the first one you see, but sometimes you got to take a second and read the whole question. So all of the above. Plankton plays a role in those cycles. That puts the mythical otter does not want to let go of that top spot. So we'll see what happens in this final true or false question. We're farming lots of seaweed across the planet. What do you think? True or false? We are farming a lot of seaweed all across the planet. We've got a few more seconds to lock something in. Oh, we had a little bit of a split, but the answer is false. Like Vincent said, in Asia, they've really picked up on it. Looking at the size of the population, it makes sense, but we still have a lot of work to do all around the world to catch up with that. So we're going to go to our podium, and then we're going to Q&A action. Oh, do we have one more question? We might have one more question. I think we do. Okay, one more. True or false? Seaweed can grow a maximum of 10 centimeters a day. What do you think? Seaweed can grow a maximum of 10 centimeters a day. You've got 11 seconds to lock something in. All right, that is false. Vincent talked about 40 centimeters for some species. I think I've even heard some of them even maybe getting up to a meter. So seaweed is fast growing, and that is a sustainable resource that we could really, really make good use of. So in third place in today's Kahoot, we've got the majestic lemming. In second place today, the fast orcs. And holding down that top spot, I have a feeling I know who it's going to be. The mythical otter did not let go. Tape to tape, fast with those answers. All right, so let's turn off that screen share. Let's go to Q&A action. We have Mr. McGill's hiding out backstage.
Jordan, you won.
Hey, Mr. McGill, how are we doing?
You won. Dang, I won.
Did you guys win? Good job.
Cool.
Congrats.
I won it for the team. Yeah.
All right. I see some great questions in the chat, so why don't we have some people pop up and ask those questions for us?
Jordan, you came.
Okay, Stuart, you want to pop up in front of the laptop? Hey guys, hey, Jordan.
How many
Quiet, please.
types of seaweed are there?
Well, that's a good question. We know for sure 12,000 different types of seaweed, but actually there might be another 12,000 unknown type of seaweed in the Pacific, because we don't know very well the seaweed from the Pacific, notably the one in Polynesia and all these small islands. So there might be a lot more.
I don't know why you
Oh, I think Vincent's connectivity might have frozen up on us for a second. His signal was a little iffy this morning, so it's done pretty well so far, but we'll give him a moment and see if he pops back in. But yeah, we still have a lot of exploring to do in our oceans. We know of about 12,000 species, he said.
12,000, but we know of 12,000 type of seaweed. And the funny thing, I'm back.
You're back. You froze on us for a moment, but you're back. Maybe not.
He's gone. Bye-bye.
All right. Let's be patient. This happened in our test call this morning, but he did come back, and we were able to.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm here. Sorry for that.
No worries.
Sorry. So we have 12,000 known type of seaweed, but out of these 12,000 type of seaweed, we only know how to cultivate 20 of them. So 20, we know how to cultivate 20 type of seaweed out of 12,000. So you still have a lot to learn about seaweed, guys, because there's still a lot to learn.
All right, let's grab another question.
I had one more question. Can seaweed be an invasive species? Like, is it safe to harvest everywhere?
Well, we only need we can only harvest or cultivate, because harvest is a different thing. Wild harvest is very bad because it's impacting the stocks. We only cultivate endemic seaweed, and yes, some seaweed may be invasive. You know, in the US, you know about sargassum in the south part of the US, which is an invasive seaweed. Because of all the chemical products we put on the land, it will create this kind of problem. So seaweed is not the problem. It's a consequence of the problem. It's a symptom of something going wrong, which is the abusive use of nutrients on land for our agriculture. But the more we will get to know about seaweed, the more we can prevent this invasive seaweed to happen. And in China, they do not have any invasive seaweed anymore because they know about seaweed. They know how to cultivate them. And the more you cultivate them, the more you prevent this type of problem with seaweed.
All right. Thanks, Mr. McGill's crew. Those were some great questions. Okay, Vincent, I'm going online to grab some questions from the YouTube chat. I've got a classroom here in Toronto. They are some 5th graders, and they want to know what your favorite seafood dish is. What's your favorite thing to make with seaweed?
You can do anything with seaweed. I love seaweed salad. I put seaweed salad with mango and goat cheese, and it's beautiful, for instance. Of course, I love the sushi and the makis, and I even do pancakes with seaweed, and they are delicious. Or chocolate cream with seaweed. That's delicious with nori, which is the same seaweed as you put into the maki. So, but you can really do anything you want. I mean, there's a lot of different tastes, a lot of different things to do. And actually, the big chefs in the world, they love to use seaweed because it's a new territory for them. It's unknown. It's brand new. It's something to discover. So they are very, very exciting, the top chefs of this world. They are very excited by seaweed. I was in a restaurant a couple of weeks ago, one of the best in the world. I was invited to discover their seaweed meal. And I can tell you it was delicious. And the meal was very expensive around like $500 or $600 per meal. So I trust everybody loves it. And if you are to pay that price, I mean, it needs to be good. So seaweed can be really delicious, and you can do anything with that.
All right. I've got a question here from some 7th graders in Connecticut, and they are wondering, Vincent, are there any species of seaweed that are threatened with extinction because of human activity?
Many of them. We lost already a lot of seaweed. The largest seaweed forest was off to California, in front of Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, and San Diego, and so forth, all the coast. And we lost 80% of it already because of climate change, which is a consequence of human activities. So all the pollution put in the ocean, the additional temperature and so forth, it is hurting a lot the seaweed, and they are at risk. Seaweed, they love, notably the big seaweed, they love the cold water. So Canada, Alaska are very exciting place for seaweed, and you can see a lot of growth there. But the south of the US is becoming more and more complicated for seaweed to survive, and we see a lot of seaweed that are disappearing there, and the stock are at risk very much.
All right. This is a question from a classroom in Guelph, Ontario, wondering, do you ever free dive or scuba dive in kelp forests, and what's your favorite marine life to see?
Well, yeah, free diving in kelp forest is one of the most incredible experience you can have. I did in the south of Patagonia in Chile, where you have the biggest seaweed in this world. They can be 60, 70, 80 meters high. They can be really, really big, and it's beautiful there. And it's like a lot of colors, a lot of wildlife everywhere around you. It's just an absolutely unique experience. It's so complicated. You can do the same in California, actually, because you have the same kind of forest, or in Alaska, or in the west coast of Canada, because you have beautiful forest there. So yes, free diving in seaweed is one of the best experience. You need to learn how to dive, but it's fantastic, and it's great to see. And you can see any wildlife. I mean, any seafood there, any sea wildlife in the seaweed forest. So I strongly encourage you, all of you, to do that, because that's a unique experience.
Okay. One more question here in the chat about depth. So how deep can we find seaweed?
The deepest seaweed can grow up to 100 meters deep, because you need lights. I mean, they need lights. So you have lights, very little lights, but you still have lights up to 100 meters deep. After that, you don't have lights anymore, so you cannot have seaweed. You can have microorganisms, you can have plankton. You have plankton up to 3.5 or 10 or even 11 kilometers deep. You can find some kind of plankton, some kind of organism, but you cannot find any seaweed as such. Seaweed can only grow up to 100 meters depth. In general, it's more between 0 and 30 meters deep that it grows. But that's also interesting, because if you think about it, you don't find any production on land that can grow up to 30 meters high. I mean, if you look at the crop field, it's not going to be 30 meters high. So that's why seaweed can grow a lot of food as well, because it's a 3D farming, ready 3D farming. You can grow really deep to get a huge production. And we calculated some years ago that 2% of the ocean would be sufficient to produce enough protein, enough food for everyone in the world, up to 12 billion people, with no need of any additional protein from land, animal, or vegetal.
Okay. Last question for you, Vincent. This is a classroom in Nova Scotia. They've heard fish farming in the ocean can have a negative impact. Is there any negative impacts to seafood farming that you know about?
Well, fish farming can have a negative impact because we don't know how to do this. Because we have started to cultivate the highest, the last part of the chain. So it's like you want to raise pigs, but you have nothing to feed. You don't know how to feed them. You don't know how to grow what could feed the pigs or the porks. So you don't do that. So we have started to feed to farm salmon, or to farm like big carnivorous fish, but we don't know how to farm what's feeding them. So we have to find other solution. And in the end, they have a negative impact because you have to source food from very far, you have to transport the food, you have to grow the food, you have to eradicate fish to feed them, and so forth. So first, we need to start by the beginning of the pyramid. If you build a house, it's just like if you build a house and you start with the roof. I mean, it will never work this way. You need to start with the foundation, the basis of the house, basement, and then you grow up step by step, one step after the other. But you're going to start with the roof. It's not going to work. That's why fish farm has a detrimental impact. When it comes to seaweed, it's just like planting a forest. I mean, planting a forest cannot have a detrimental impact, of course, as long as the trees or the vegetables are endemic and they are local. You don't. I mean, if you start to plant a baobab forest in Canada, it's not going to be good. But if you plant local trees, it means all good. It's the same with seaweed. There's no detrimental impact as soon as it's done the right way, respecting what is already in the environment and the balance. But I think that the best chance we have in seaweed is that we can redesign this production the way we want. There's no resistance to change. I mean, we can decide that we're not going to grow only seaweed, but seaweed and fish and oysters and mussels all together. So we recreate an ecosystem. Exactly what we missed on land. I mean, this permaculture. Nothing grows in isolation in this world. So when you see a huge field of crops of corn, it's a problem because nothing grows this way. So we need to learn from that experience and apply this for the ocean. So I think the biggest potential of seaweed is that we start from a blank sheet of paper. Everything is to be written. No one will prevent you to do the right thing. There is no lobby, there is no resistance, there is nothing at stake. You can start from scratch. The next generation is capable of anything. They are more aware of the problem than we were, and now they know how to do the right thing. The question is not about what we grow, the question is how to grow it. And that's the most important thing to remember. And we have a huge chance and solution with seaweed and plankton, which is a bit more emerging, but the potential is even bigger in the end.
All right. Well, I want to start off with a huge shout out to our classrooms today. Thank you for playing Kahoot with us. Thank you for sending in all of those great questions. A shout out to Mr. McGill's class, who is hanging out backstage with us today. And Vincent, thank you. Thank you so much for the work you're doing, kickstarting that Seaweed Revolution and sharing all this great knowledge with us today. And good luck with all the events coming up in Rio. I know you've got a very busy schedule.
I have, yeah. But always good to speak with the next generation. And it's our duty to do that. So welcome once again in this Seaweed Revolution, and try to eat seaweed. First thing to do when back home tonight.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. We hope to see you in some more events this week and throughout the month, but we're going to say goodbye for now. Thanks, Vincent.
Thank you very much. Bye.
All right.